Hello everyone, and welcome to another time-lapse video of my shadow box making process. This shadow box will be an image of Tifa and Iris enjoying the lanterns at Cosmo Canyon. It's been a really long time since I've made one of these videos. I do apologize for that. It turns out that finding a balance between making my art, doing videos about my art, on top of managing my day job, and on top of going back to uni, is a bit of a tricky balancing act to manage. So I'm still trying to find my way to manage all that. But you don't want to hear about that. What you want to hear about is how I made a shadow box. So let's get to it. So I'll start by describing my concept a little bit. So this is inspired by Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which is the second entry into the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. And what that game did for me is make me care very deeply about Tifa and Iris, not only as individual characters, because I thought they gave them a really, they really deepened their character, gave them a lot more depth, and moved them from characters that I liked to my two favorite characters in the entire game. But on top of that, they added so many cute little interactions between the two, so many great moments, that I found myself shipping them very intensely. This is my first time ever shipping two characters. It was a very new experience and a surprisingly intense experience. Like, I cared about those two so much. So that when I decided to do this piece, and I thought back to the moments they shared in Cosmo Canyon, I was like, let's imagine that they enjoyed the Lantern Festival together. I booted up my game, went back to Cosmo Canyon to get a bunch of screenshots and references that I needed. Those two, Tifa and Iris, happened to be in my party at the time when I was going around taking screenshots. And I found myself getting weirdly emotional. Like, it's surprising the amount, like the intensity to which I cared about them. Uh, if you head to my socials or my shop now, you'll see a lot of Tifa and Iris art because they became, yeah, they became a couple I cared a lot about. So this is my little contribution to celebrating those two and giving them a quiet moment. And it was also the opportunity to experience with floating lights, which I will discuss in a minute. Little side note here, I am also still trying to figure out a new filming setting that I had, and didn't realize when doing that layer specifically that the way the sunlight was hitting the room changed the video a bit. So I tried to adjust it, but you're going to see a bunch of, like, a few moments of blinding white light at some points. I apologize about that. I've tried to adjust it, but no program in the world can save you when you have that much light flooding onto some very white paper. But yeah, so another reason I wanted to do this piece is because I loved the way Cosmo Canyon was revamped in the remake. They made it such a beautiful area. It's my favorite area of the game. There we go. Nuclear light. Can't see a thing. Shield your eyes. But yeah, I spent, even if I didn't need screenshots, I still spent a lot of time just walking around Cosmo Canyon, just enjoying the ambiance, enjoying the architecture. Like, and as a paper cutting artist making a scene out of it, it was a godsend. It was perfect because you have all these like little scaffolding, little stairs, and solid rock interacting with very thin structures. So later on, when the lights, when I turn on the light and play with the shadows, it makes some very stark contrast, which works really well. And also, it makes for a more interesting background because it's a bit of an unusual architecture, so it doesn't just look like triangle for roof and rectangle for house. It's a bit more intricate than that, and it makes the background a bit more interesting. And all those tiny details that I like to make anyway also serve as a nice contrast to Tifa and Iris in the foreground. As usual, I might have added a few more details at a smaller scale. Then I never realized the scale of the cut when I draw, because when I'm drawing out the layout, I'm zoomed in as much as I need to be comfortable, and don't realize that this needs to fit on an A4 paper and sometimes less. This is like about half an A4. But also, I like tiny details. Tiny details make me happy. So you're going to see a lot of me just cutting out little railways and little little stairs, little wooden structures. But a thing that I've learned when doing intricate details like these, especially like thin strips of paper, like scaffolding, like railways, like that weird triangle shape you're seeing there. I don't even know what that is. I think it's just like a wooden decoration. It's when paper is this thin, and when you shine a light behind it, it makes the shadow of that particular bit a lot darker and a lot starker than larger uncut bits of paper, like for example where you're seeing the cliff edge on the right of the paper there. That doesn't have any details because it's hidden by something else. If I were to shine a light on that specifically, without another layer in front of it, you would see that all those little bits and beams that I'm cutting right now would be a lot darker than the cliff edge on the right. And that is very useful when you're trying to create contrast and when you're trying to create a sense of depth. And it also helps to draw the attention and direct the eye, because your eye will be drawn to the darker bits, to the like the starker interactions between the light and the darker shadow. So that helps the village stand out. That's also like a really that's me being really fancy, but also I do these because I like it, because I think it looks pretty, because I just wanted an excuse to do Cosmo Canyon. Beautiful city with all with the windmills as well. I really love the windmills. Like, that's one thing I unfortunately can't replicate, but that constant sense of motion that you had in the area in the game was really appealing. And it's a really nice place to spend a bit of time recovering, especially after like everything that's happened to the group. It's like a nice reprieve, but it's also a nice place to reflect. And it's also at that point in the game that I realized just how much I cared about Tifa and Iris spending time together and being happy together, because I started the game just jokingly telling myself, oh, I can see why people ship them. I could see them being a couple. And it's at Cosmo Canyon where they're sharing their insecurities, and whenever one's unsure or doubting herself, the other one's right there with her, making sure she's okay, giving her support. And it was at that point that I was like, oh no. Oh, I love them very much. Oh, what do I do with these feelings? Turns out what I do with these feelings is make art about it. And I've made a lot of Tifa and Iris art, and you're probably going to see more, if not on this channel, then on my shop or on my socials. Now we get to the ladies themselves. Like, I could have made the two part of that first layer, that first I don't know, cliffside by the tree where they're sitting. I wanted to do them separately because pasting them on top makes them stand out a little bit more. Sometimes when you do a character that is part of a layer, they can feel like they can get a bit drowned out in that layer, especially if they're not the biggest thing in the frame. So this helped them stand out a bit more, and I also did them separately instead of doing one packed, like bunched together, Tifa and Aerith as one bit of paper, because the way I was going to have them pasted against each other, that would do a little outline. So in this pose, it's Aerith leaning on Tifa, which means that everywhere that Aerith is leaning on Tifa, there would be a little extra shadow at that point there, and that helps understand, or like helps highlight the fact that there are two separate people. Because again, if you make it just one chunk of paper, the separate characters can get a bit lost. So I wanted to use the shadow to highlight the fact that there are two people a bit more. And now we get to the lanterns, which was the really experimental part of the piece. I've never done anything like this, and the theory was cut out the lights separately, do some holes in the background so that the light would shine through the hole and through the paper of the lanterns and make the lanterns look like they're lit up a little bit. Which it took a lot of planning, because obviously not all lanterns are the same shape, they're not the same size, because they're flying away. So that means every single lantern had to have its specific placement. I had to label all of them, I had to count all of them. And I decided to show this bit unsped up just to help you understand. So for each lantern, there was a little strip coming out of them that had to be folded twice to create a little hook. And once that hook was made, the part of the hook sticking up was pasted behind whatever piece of the scenery it was going to be attached to. And then the part of the hook sticking out would give it like distance compared to the paper. So you can see a few lanterns already pasted there if you look closely. So yeah, the idea is to have them hang on top of the hole, but with a bit of distance from the hole to let the light shine through. And here's another fun fact. Everything you're seeing here is actually not what went into the final piece, because it was only after I pasted every single lantern that I realized I printed the lanterns on the wrong type of paper. I needed the paper to be thinner than the paper I usually use for shadow boxes, because the thinner the paper, the lighter, or like the more light shines through. And I'd accidentally done all of those lanterns on the thicker paper that I normally use. So I pasted everything painstakingly, then realized my mistake, cut out, or not cut out, but like I managed to salvage the village and just like remove the lanterns from it. I had to redo that back layer entirely, the one with the big boulder there that you're looking at right now. And I had to remake everything. I was kind of annoyed, but also, you know what? It's part of the process. Sometimes you'll make mistakes, and when you do, you'll have to find a way to rectify them. I actually got lucky that I salvaged most of the town. I really didn't want to make the town again, so in a way, it was fortunate that only the boulder was not salvageable. What happened with that boulder is that I'd glued on the lanterns too tightly, and they went over too many lines, like boulder lines, and trying to remove the lanterns was basically ripping the paper. So I was like, rather than like struggle with it and end up with something that would be a bit wrinkled, it was like, it's gonna be quicker to just redo it. So I redid it. A bit annoying, but could have been worse in the grand scheme of things. And as usual, this is the bit where I make the frame. I've been asked about this before, and the reason I make my own frames instead of buying pre-made ones is that it gives me a lot more freedom about the size of the piece that I want to make. So I don't have to worry when I'm figuring out, when I'm drawing out my layers and when I'm making the piece. It can be the size and the dimensions that it needs to be without me worrying about how it's going to fit in the frame. And it gives me a lot more freedom once I've learned how to make frames correctly, which was a skill I didn't expect to pick up when I started learning paper cutting. Painting the frame, varnishing the frame, doing the backboard as well, which is a step I often forget to show. And now this is cutting out little strips of foam board to put behind each layer of paper to give the piece more depth. Well, there's two reasons you do this. One is to create depth, make the scene feel more three-dimensional. And also it allows, like, more space between the papers means that more light is going to shine through. If you stick all the layers together without that added space, the front layers are going to be so dark they might as well be completely black, and a lot of details are going to be left out. So, yeah, it looks nicer, and also it lets the light shine through. I've added the glass to the frame, and now adding everything else. And I actually forgot to record myself adding the LEDs. I don't know why. I usually remember doing that. I'm sorry that there's no LED footage this time. I debated adding like how I add the LEDs from a completely different box, and it felt too weird. It was like, I also don't have another box with the same paint, and I was like, it's gonna be too jarring, might as well not. Trust that I added some LEDs there in there at the back. And here you go, here's the final piece. Really happy with how this one turned out, really emotional about how this one turned out, which again, I was not expecting. Like, is this how people shipping characters feel all the time? Because it's intense, man. I don't know how people have more than one ship. Just one is exhausting. But yeah, I like the how one edge of the piece is quite intricate and has a lot of details, and while the other, where Iris and Tifa are sitting, feels a bit more plain, a bit more quiet. So it highlights that notion of them having a quiet moment, looking over something beautiful. The one thing I want to try, if I ever remake this one, and I might, because, you know, I had fun doing it, is that since obviously the lanterns didn't give me enough work, I was thinking it might be cool if I hollowed out the middle of the lanterns and instead pasted them on top of tracing paper. Because like I explained, a thinner strip of paper would mean that the edge of the lantern would be a lot darker, and the light shining through the tracing paper would be brighter by comparison. So it might give it more of that effect of floating lights. So that's something to explore. I think I might try doing that. And if not on this box, on something else, because that added, you can't really see it too much when looking at it from the front, but that added dimensionality of the lanterns floating by was really nice, and that's something I want to explore further in the future. But that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't hesitate to ask any questions you have in the comments. Always happy to talk more about my process. Or request something else that you'd like to see. Do you want something else Final Fantasy related? Because my god, do I have more coming. If you like this video and want to see more, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will try to make these more regularly. I swear, I'm getting there. I just need to get more organized. Follow me on all my socials. You'll find the links in the description, I'm sure. This box has already been sold at the latest convention I went to, but I can always remake it if you request it, which you can request if you head to my Etsy shop, which you'll find in the description as well. And that's all I've got. Thank you very much for watching, and see you on the next one.